and welcome back to the Market Mamas podcast. We're really glad you guys stopped by. My name is Becky, and I'm here with Kendra. We are futures day traders from the West Coast, just around 3.5 years into our trading journeys. So we created this podcast to have a space to offer up our constructive conversations that might help other developing traders learn and grow and feel supported as these conversations do for us. So, Lord knows, day trading is actually a really challenging pursuit. And we really just want to show up for you guys and share what has helped us. And so that's our whole purpose. Today, Kendra is going to do an awesome recap of her week and kind of take us through how each trading session went and the lessons and experiences she gained. So I'm so excited to dive into your week, Kendra. Let's see how it went for you.
Yeah, I am too. Every day this week was pretty special. So coming into Tuesday, so I trade NQ futures and we were opening right on the POC of Friday. And it was an area that I had clearly defined in my trade plan. If we hold here, then I'm looking for a long position, or if buyers cannot defend this level, then I'm looking for a short position. Very straightforward in theory, right? However, we opened and just dropped like from that level. And I had expected maybe it would dance a little bit, maybe give a small fake out pump, to the upside first. So I was stuck in that moment, to be honest, and hadn't expected to enter that soon. So having not entered in those very few seconds, before I knew it, she had already hit like two of my lower targets by 6:35. I had gotten an alert on my phone from VIX. It was like, hello, like bears are here. Like we're going down, like no doubt. So I, mind you, I don't exactly have the best track record. Becky knows this with taking the elevator down. For some reason, it's hard for me to trust, bearish trending days. It's hard for me to act when I need to, get good entries, not get stopped out. So once I did start to participate, my two entries that I did get, they weren't great. And I did get stopped out twice. And so it was while she was retesting the -1 standard deviation VWAP band. And so now, which I could have waited for, it's like if I had not been impatient, but, now I'm 2 losses down and I did take a break. Per my training system, things to support myself just to keep me, clear. I took a break and I waited because we had news at 7. And so I was just kind of watching, being patient. And I really didn't want to enter before news because the previous week I had got burned entering like a minute before news. So had some carryover from that. But this day was actually beautiful. Like the news only helped. Like it didn't do anything crazy, like give a crazy wick in the opposite direction. Like it just gave it the push it needed. So now I'm sitting here like, damn it. Like, why did you like overthink? Like, anyways. So then of course, so that she made another lower low and it was like, all right, like, of course, like everything's playing out beautifully. Right. And then I just kind of walked away and I waited. I was like, all right, I'm going to wait. And I have to if I want to participate, I have to wait for a better entry. So I did eventually get an entry at the -1 standard deviation band again that was acting as that dynamic resistance. VWAP was angled down. So I took that short and it was a great entry finally, but all I did was take a scalp because I was feeling jittery and nervous by then and I could not keep my eye on the bigger picture. So I ended my session with a winning trade, but overall I still had a small red outcome on my day. So I was just out of mental capital and I couldn't hold. I was at peace for the most part because I had at least traded in the right direction. I had honored taking a break after, a couple losses. And I didn't try to over leverage to play like fix the mode for my P&L. I prioritized defense when I wasn't feeling on my A game. But it was lame for sure. She trended down that day like 772 points. So I hope that some other NQ traders out there got a better piece of that.
Oh my God, that was my day that I struggled too. And I swear to gosh, I have such a bias of like the first day of the week is more often rotational. And so that's what bit me in the butt that day is I didn't anticipate the liquidation that we ended up having that day. And I just was like, oh, look, it's holding along this LVA. And I tried for a long and I was in profit for a few minutes, like on the pullbacks up to the -1 standard deviation. And then quickly she's like, nope, we're not done. And would like come down and so I was trying to catch the holds. And then I wasn't scalping quick enough and recognizing the pressure that the bears were having. So that day was tricky. I'm not even going to lie. And it's funny that we traded different instruments, but that day wasn't exactly a traditional as common type of day, and it was tricky when it does that, when she's like throws curveballs, and that goes to what we always say of like Miss Market is in charge, and you just have to stay flexible and nimble and get in and out, especially like you did such a great job that day respecting your conditions when you're not feeling it and something is it's just not happening, you're just not feeling your A game. That's not the day to like try to bank a fat win. It's a day to just call it a day and see what the next day offers. So way to like contain
Yeah.
the loss. I feel like any day when we start with a loss, those are the hard days that put you at risk for a tilt day. So that's great job.
Yeah, it's growth for sure, because being able to in real time be like, okay, like I'm at risk here for wanting to overcompensate, for not nailing it, for, it's like sometimes you take it personal. You're like, damn it, like that was like so laid out for me. Like I had that, like it's all good. Like, I'm not living in this one day, like moving on. So moving on to Wednesday, so I don't know when this is going to air, but I'm recapping the week that was a short 4-day week because of Labor Day holiday. So moving on to Wednesday, I think it was the 4th, maybe. We opened with a very small gap and that got filled right away. Then we sort of danced around the previous day low with no clear direction. And on session was rotational. And so already out of the gate, like these aren't my favorite conditions. She was just chopping around like super tight range. But what I did, start to see develop was a consolidation block. So my mentor taught this as a magic box. So that's what we call it. But it's just like an area of range where price is consolidating. So eventually we did have a setup when price broke out of that block. However, I usually expect, a decent amount of retest in order to get, the best fill price for that trade. So I was eyeing that previous low a day, that price had just been dancing around for a good amount of time, which was about like 1/3 of the way back in, to that box. So it seemed like a reasonable pullback to expect. However, she never returned to that level. And instead, she barely rechecked just like the top of it and held. And what I didn't see in real time was that was in confluence with the positive 1 standard deviation VWAP band holding, but I wasn't executing on that chart. So I didn't see like right then and there, like, okay, that's a perfect retest, like not what I was expecting. So it's just one of those days when you're like too stubborn on your entry price and then you just miss it. So that was a little upsetting. So she did start to move, great up to my upper target, and I essentially chased. I did enter during a pullback, but it was a very small pullback and it was like mid pullback. So it wasn't that great. And then she double topped and was holding, and I was in profit, so I was like, I'm just going to hold this. Like I trusted that she would eventually get there. But okay, what the saddest thing, it was such a rookie move, is I forgot about news. After yesterday being so paranoid about news and making sure I wouldn't, let that, this day, I knew it. Like I check Forex Factory every morning, but I think just being in my space from knowing like, dang it, I missed my best entry, but I'm still trying to get this, essentially chasing, like my head was just like, not there. So I literally forgot about news, didn't protect my position. And then news hit, and today was one of those that day was one of those days where she just like major volatility, like ran all the way back down, got stopped out, took a hard loss due to slippage. And so now I'm just like what just happened? And so I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But anyway, so I took a break. I did take a break, and then I watched, and it was beautiful. She went right down in that previous demand zone created from overnight session pre-market. It was confluent with touching the -2 band standard deviation. It was right at the bottom of that previous consolidation block. So it was really it was a great V shape. So she held there, rebounded, beautiful V-shaped recovery, ran back over across the VWAP, pulled back down. And then at that point I knew, okay, like we're rotational. So I did enter for that second trade back up to basically double top. And so I got my loss back in that trade. But even that trade, like that's not my favorite setup. Like it's not trading in the conditions that I like, because both of those trades like did not have a good risk to reward opportunity. And I know that my best setups, the trades I really want to wait for and select, they do. So I was green for my day, and I had survived trading in conditions that I really didn't thrive in. I used my skills, but I was really frustrated. I was honestly more frustrated with Wednesday's performance than Tuesday's performance. And I think it's because of the fact of the news, mistake and just chasing that initial trade. But I respected my conditions and I closed shop, and I did have that acute irritation that Becky had talked about previously. But thankfully I had an appointment I had to pivot to. So it was easy for me to kind of just let it go. And I did study my executions, that day. Later on, I marked up my chart and just, really learned, so it wasn't for nothing, but it was an annoying day.
Oh my God. I think every trader ever would understand annoying days where you're like, I had great intentions. I had a great plan. Like, I feel like my skills show that I can capitalize on these opportunities. And then it just kind of unravels in one way or another. But I mean, you did a great job of adjusting, pivoting, staying current, and not really over trading in that moment. You didn't flip positions and stuff and get too wild on it. And so that's awesome growth. And the acute irritation, I love it when I schedule myself a full day, because I know that my ideal and my best opportunities are first thing in the morning. I trade opening bell volatility. If I don't nail it, it's so much more healthy for me to physically just move on with my day and be productive somewhere else, like with appointments, with my physical therapy for my back, like with working in my garden or something, to just call it and leave. Even though technically the market is open for 6 more hours, it's my ideal conditions are over. My time that I operate my trading business has ended. It's not going to get better if I screw around in the chop that is when New York is at lunch. That's not it. And I think that as traders, we've really matured into respecting that within our system. And so I'm even on a winning day, I don't want to have the greed of I see it, I feel it, I just took a great win, I could take one more. It works on both ends, having that break. And so that's awesome, valuable tip for any trader out there who, doesn't find that staring at their screen for 8 hours a day is good for them. Schedule something.
Yeah, it totally felt like a strong, choice to pivot and to just, I'm done for the day, because I've been burned on many occasions with rotational days, and she was beautiful, rotational, nice, balanced day. And those days I fought with before, I wanted to break out, I wanted to do what it's clearly not doing. So I'm really glad that I, walked away and I was just able to, move on for sure. And then, so goodness, literally after 2 pretty much lackluster days, I was starting to feel some type of way, Wednesday night going in Thursday, I was all right, come on, market, give me an opportunity. And, I did get, Thursday was amazing for me. It really presented my golden opportunity, so as much as Wednesday was, very balanced, and those trading in those days can bother me, but I really love how they give me a really nice map or guide to base my next day's, if then biases off. So NQ held opening price on Thursday morning, and we did get accepted back into the previous day value area low. And we did a beautiful open drive up to the previous day's POC, the overnight high. So I did take, it was gorgeous. Yeah, I did take one quick scalp right to one of my yearly HVA levels before the news. And then, of course, I had the trade level that I was really eyeing, that I was really interested in, that I wanted to wait for. And that was still a little bit of a ways up, and price would have to hold that previous day's value area high in order for me to enter that trade. So I had intuition that day that my if-then statement could play out, but I wanted to wait out the news, of course, because of the carryover from yesterday's trauma. But I coached myself that, it's okay. That's just where I'm at. And if I miss it, oh, well. So news did come in, and she went, started moving right up really nicely. She almost made it to my first target and then pulled back. I had waited for price to resume, and then I entered, and she went right back up to that first target. So here I am, up nicely in profit. And then I just committed. I had committed to my full trade plan level. I figured since she had already tested that level that she could break through, and I didn't want to sell myself short. So I chose to hold and fully accepted the risk. And I really thought that my stop loss would keep me in if I respected that original value area high plan level. However, it double topped and we went deeper still. So I took that loss, and then I just reassessed. I recognized that my data was still supporting my long bias. Structure had not been broken. I had defined a retracement zone. And after she completed her first full wave cycle and then retraced right to the top of that zone and held, had that not happened, then my long bias would have been thrown out. But we also had a beautiful, rhythm of support off the 1 standard deviation VWAP band. We had hidden bullish divergence on stochastic. My cumulative Delta volume was riding a nice trend line up, supporting buyers. So I mean, like confluences on confluences. And now price was actually dancing right around my original if then level. So I had like an even better entry than the first. I got back in and she continued up. And so I knew I had to, again, commit to my full profit target plan. I knew I needed to respect that. My trade's intention, despite being currently red, from that previous loss. So I did. And it took around 20 minutes. And it was so hard, because once she did get back to that first target, I was like, all right, we're either going to triple top and go back down, or we're going to make a higher high. I needed that higher high to get to my target. My target was a naked VPOC from Tuesday. So it was a valid target. And I was like, I just got to trust that. So I did eventually move to break even as she kept marching up. And then I also eventually moved my protective stop into a profit to lock in points to get back my loss, just because at that point, it made zero sense to have to end my day red, having had two positions that were both nicely up. But she went the full distance and it was great. That second entry for this trade was 3 points from my trade plan level, and my exit was 2.5 points from that profit target, just to ensure a fill. So it was for sure like the best like level to level trade that I've captured like in its entirety. And so it was just beautiful. Like when I look back on the chart, of it, but it was freaking challenging. like I was grateful that I held and trusted she would make that higher high. But I had to really coach myself to like not overmanage. I had to walk away. I was doing like sit-ups again. Then my superstition kicked in and I was like, no, you got to go back and watch. It was a really great trade to reflect on. Just a testimony to just honoring the trader who I've known for a while that I am, the setups I see, how the market speaks to me, and then just getting closer and closer to executing in a way, in a style that allows me to really actualize into her. So it was a great growing day for sure. And then I loved like marking up my charts later that night and just really reinforcing how much an opportunity that she did give. But it was also like, all right, that was freaking hard and you're just gonna have to do it all over again.
Excellent work, mama. Like that's such a beautiful rundown of what a day looks like when we have an edge, we see a trade. It's not always like perfect with one stop out, but like you killed it. Your points were amazing that day. It was an excellent outcome for something that was really challenging. So I just love that. And I actually have a question for all of our viewers. This is the most technical by far that we've ever been at Market Mamas. We're testing the waters a little bit here with talking about how we see the market, how we trade, what our executions look like, what our day-to-day is when we're at the charts, with Kendra doing this like rundown of how she trades with the technical skills and everything. So please give us feedback, leave us comments in the bottom, what you think about talking trading with us in terms of technical analysis and our style, because we can lean more into this if you guys find value in it. And so Kendra's really doing an excellent job of all of the data that she utilizes in her trading session to kind of show you what kind of a trader she is. And so we're so excited to hear back from you guys. So let's talk about Friday, Kendra.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I know when I was preparing for this episode, I was like, all right, I try to like not have too many technical terms because so much stuff is interchangeable too, depending on the style, you use, but I'll definitely add some B-roll with some, definitions of things. But even if all of that, even if you don't know all these terms, like you can still like see the psychology aspect of it, right? Because everything that I'm describing, it's also like how I was feeling, how it's like it all kind of comes full circle. But yeah, it is definitely more technical than we've done. But this is the realness of what we do. Like this is what we do. Like this is what qualifies us to have this podcast, right? Like we're day traders. So okay, Friday, which I'm going to title The Fall of Friday. Like, I hate that I have to report this day because it was just whack as hell. But I've committed to being fully authentic. So here we go. Friday morning, I woke up in a funk. I was completely scatterbrained. My energy was off right away. My mindset was not right. We've talked about this before, the factory workers in your brain, right? When you like wake up and you're instantly kind of like negative. I put those factory workers on a mission to start my downward spiral for the day. My mothering responsibilities presented some very heavy stress and kept me from doing any pre-market prep mindset or, the chart work that I do. By the way, I'm not blaming my kid like at all. It's not my, it's just the fact that I should have honored my personal conditions, for that morning because I didn't pass that full body scan that we've talked about. That's so important. And instead I fired on my laptop while I was like multitasking. But I told myself like, okay, you're not going to trade until you can, get back focused and you do have some time to get settled down. But I was back and forth, between my morning, and I was looking to just set an alert, right? I was like, I'm going to set an alert on my phone to avoid FOMO. But right when I was looking to do that, I saw my if then statement plan just playing out. Like, beautiful. Friday was another very bearish trending day, and price quickly left my level. And so instead of being okay with missing out or waiting for a full retest to my original level where I had wanted to short, I did wait a bit, but then I impatiently entered on a minor downtrend line thinking that would act as resistance. And it didn't. And I got stopped out twice. And then I did the classic, like doubt where you switch teams. And I thought I could quickly just make up my loss in that counter trend move. But all she was doing was retesting, playing around at the one band, giving the best short entries. And mind you, going long was never part of my if then, big picture setup at all. So naturally, I lost even more. And finally, seeing things clearly, like in terms of the likelihood of continuation down within my if then, trade intention, I'm like determined now. I'm determined to fix this shit. However, now I've completely lost like any form of risk management, and I'm just in full aggressive, like offensive mode. So basically what I did is, and I also want to mention, like, I've taken 0 notes up until this point. Like even my trade journal, like every day I took live notes. It really helped me build the episode too, but I have taken no notes at all. And I even remember before I very first entered, like I had that little voice in my head, like, maybe you should just take some notes instead. Like maybe you should just like journal what's happened so far. But no, so I ended up basically, selling into the dip, adding onto my position. And I just adjusted my stop loss to what I thought would be wide enough, because we were clearly going to keep going down. So at that point, I'm basically gambling because I walked away. 20 minutes later, I checked my phone and she had dropped beautifully to my target, but not without retesting that original level one last time. That unfortunately, my heavy position at this point, like size just could not take. It could not hold. So I was stopped out like to the tick right before the move can happen. And it was horrible. I was like, I was almost like numb to it, but I also was like, okay, this stings, but I knew this needed to happen. Like it would not have been like just right to be positively reinforced for my shit choices that I made in the morning. Like, it's just one of those things. Like I'm human, like I'm still messed up. So that was the outcome for that. Thankfully, I'd only lost my mind on one of my execution charts. And so at that point, I was kind of in effort mode and I still had my other accounts that I hadn't yet traded. So I did recognize, okay, this is going to be a full sell-off day. I did take one more short. I traded continuation as my cumulative delta volume was still showing aggressive selling, and it was just very likely that we were going to have a breakout of the initial balance, the negative initial balance. So I did add on to that trade during the retest, and it was actually a really good trade and actually worked out. But of course, having all of that extra in previous, I didn't feel great. I was like just sick about it, and I was disappointed after having such a strong week. And I really had no reason to force it. Like on a Friday of all days, like it was upsetting.
Yeah. Those hard days, it's easy to engage in fuck it mode when you're distracted and you've taken a hit, and your logical brain, we have this capability to shush it. When it's saying just set your alert and do some live journaling, and we're like, no, that's not how I'm feeling right now. I can't do it. It's not the day. I respect you. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Right now I'm busy. So I feel like what you were saying, I was like, oh, I've done that. I recognize it's not actually my process and my plan, but it's like not hard to slip into that, especially if there's a child or two, that is wanting something, but they're generally safe. And so you are distracted and pulled. It's easier to succumb to lesser habits that we're trying to grow from. So, it happens, and it doesn't mean that we're not like still badass traders in this arena. Isn't super slippery and tricky, and it's nice that you did separate your accounts and you didn't have them all locked into that first trade. So you did have the opportunity to recognize the day that we were having and the fact that there were some issues on the other chart, but you still got a trade. So it's like, I mean, you did recognize that day that it was a bearish liquidation morning. And so, I mean, I'd say you did earn that win. Fuck it. It was a week. It was a learning week, and you're our queen. And next week's going to have a whole lot of new opportunities for us.
Yeah, thank you. I know. I think we're definitely maturing in our ways of just accepting that we are human and those things can still happen, and it doesn't take away from the overall success and improvements that we're making. So couldn't not talk about mindset, because a lot of trading, of course, is mindset. That's why we're here. But there's some specific things I did want to highlight that I really leaned into a lot these past couple of weeks. And so one of the things that one of my mantras that I've really been leaning into is saying every morning as soon as I wake up, today can be the day I take my best trade yet. And so the reason I had to really start saying this to myself is because I really need to reinforce that things only will improve over time as I continue showing up, as I continue to have intentional efforts, deliberate practice. It's like Becky talked about, this identity. And I think part of that is really accepting and expecting my trades are only going to get better. Like my skill set's only going to improve. So, and it also just reminded me of Chris, who we had on the show. Check out his episode. He's an awesome, amazing mentor and trading coach, trades futures as well. But he reminded us of this, or he brought up this perspective when he had his episode about looking at trading probabilities like sales. So, you got to get after it, like each time, like each client, the same sales pitch, the same enthusiasm, the same, desired outcome, right? Over and over again, in hopes that your next client will be even better than your last time. Your next deal will be even better. I think with trading, honoring the work, the intentional work that we are putting in, and just accepting that okay, I'm only going to get better. I'm only going to improve. The best is yet to come, which is something we always say, our best trading days are ahead. And so it's also helped me on days when I didn't get my best trade yet, because then it gives me something to look forward to. So on Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, I was like, okay, well, that day hasn't came yet. You still have that to look forward to, right? It was beautiful how after those 2 days and then Thursday happened, and then it's just confirmation. Eventually, I'm going to have an even better trade than that. Another person I have been watching so much of, which I love, he's been putting out killer mindset content right now, is Umar. And one of the things he talks about is always think of your next 100 trades. And so it's literally that is so helpful, because it really just reminds us that we can't get stuck in any one day or any one trade to define us. We have to constantly think of this as future, moving forward. And so that also helps in that it just bring that all together, in that, our next 100 trades, they're going to be a mixed and healthy bag. On any given day, clearly we have varied results, but within that, we're going to have better and better and better executions. So as we develop, because we're developing traders, Carmine also is another really, really great trader who I've been watching a ton of his. He does really great recaps where he really kind of breaks down, his whole system, his whole process, how he was thinking. And that's a really good in terms of identity as a trader, because I feel when I would watch him years ago, I was kind of intimidated, oh my gosh, this guy, seems like an idol, right? And still is, he's freaking amazing. But now when I watch his recaps, I'm I totally understand everything you did there. I'm soaking it all in, and I'm shit, this is our identity. We understand, we're freaking traders. So one of the things he highlighted in his one of his weekly recap videos is about taking a loss sometimes, but then getting back in at a better entry. So as long as the original trade is still in play. And so that really helped me when I did take that initial loss, but then I literally had a killer entry, the ideal entry for that trade. And so he also talks about how like his best days are usually off one setup. And multiple mentors have told us this. Red days usually stem from taking multiple trades and being stubborn, thinking like, all right, I'm going to get this back right. I'm going to dial this back in, and losing, sight of that one really good setup that, maybe you just didn't know for whatever reason. And another thing that Carmine says that I'm pretty sure he got from Bella from the One Good Trading book is the if then statements. Ever since I actually started typing them on my market profile chart, it's just been a great help. And it's just very cut and dry because I'm either supposed to be executing on these levels in this direction or not. Price is either following this and doing this or it's not. And so it's really helped me to not get ahead of what market's doing. Like, okay, you should be in right now, like you should be in a position right now, or to help me hold my trades. Cause I'm seeing like, there's a reason why I created this. Like there's work that went into defining these levels and making these plans. And if it's going according to it, like we got to do this. Like this is letting our trade plan, service and taking advantage of the opportunity. So my best trades have been since following this system. And it's honestly like super simple. Like everything in trading, like we go through all this to realize like how simple it is, but then it's not. So anyways, so shout out to both of those, Umar and Carmine, because they've really helped me in, just watching all of their content. And yeah, so that was the cap to my week.
Great job. And I love what you said about the mentors that we look up to, because Umar and Carmine are also, we consume a lot of the same content, and it's been really impressive to watch successful traders execute successful trades and deal with their losses, and how they explain how that works with them in their mindset and their approach to trading in general. That's helped shape who we are, besides just our individual coaches within our programs. And I think Kendra and I were talking off camera about how we have evolved to like, when we're watching their videos, we're like, yeah, I get that. I see that. Like you could have fine tuned. Like I would have maybe seen this. I wonder what the VWAP band looks like if you put it on that chart, like we're really starting to see quicker and understand these trades, which is a cool evolution, because we're actually like successful, consistent traders as well. And we're growing into that stage, and we're, a few years behind those traders in terms of their experience and where they've gone in their directions in their careers. And it's kind of awesome to be able to start to actualize the fact that we are also, successful day traders. Like this is our career. We run this business every day in the morning, and we have our setups. Like within my community, we talk about bread and butter setups. And this last week, I literally targeted a naked point of control all 3 of my green winning days. And it's like, that is such a setup for me that I can see it in my sleep. I can anticipate it the night before, like I draw out my levels and I talk about the supports that may hold in order to get a bounce to come back to it. And it's amazing to start to have these setups that like, I know what I want to see and what it will look like and how to execute it and where I will get out at. And it's powerful because it can help calm the fear and assuage the nerves, because as you just grow as a trader, if people are watching this who are beginner traders, it comes with time. It comes with looking at the chart every single day for years. And then it starts to make more sense. You start to be able to see the setups sooner, even the night before, that it could be a potential day this day. But then you also learn to temper that with, I'm coming at it with the bias because this looks like my favorite setup. So what would happen that doesn't validate that? And so you come in with more caution. And so everything that Kendra went through today with her trading, like that is the result of years of working her ass off with studying and figuring out what data speaks to her and what doesn't, and what to focus on and which charts to look at which time in the trading session to gain the valuable information she needs to hold or stay. And so I think that this conversation is really fun because it shows the growth that we have and the traders that we are, especially Kendra with all of her executions. But then any trader gets to this point if you just don't quit. So I really love that we're able to level up our conversations as well with everyone and kind of pull it all together and be an example of like perseverance and what can come with that. Like Kendra's sick Thursday, where she really capitalized on her if then statement and held it like a boss and was rewarded for that. And so that's who we are growing into more consistently as we evolve. And it's pretty freaking awesome.
It is. I'm so glad that we're sharing more, because I think that what it comes down to is like, you have to define yourself as a trader, like your own style. And then, and that in and of itself takes a long time, right? But then you have to make sure, okay, does my system support me to become that? And I think for a long time, I didn't have a system in place that really, supported the type of trader, the type of style of trading, that how the market speaks to me, my best setups. And so Becky and I were also talking about this off camera too, is that, because if you don't define that for yourself, then you're never going to realize, okay, well, what triggers you? Like, how are you gauging your success as a trader? Like for me, it's not so much about the points, but it's what the points signify in terms of like, I want to trade a level to a level. So it's like for me, that helps me like to that defines my style of like the trader I am, like with wanting to hold. And I've known this for like over a year. Like I've been defining like, I'm a continuation trader. Like I've known this about myself, but I didn't have a system in place that would allow me to thrive in those sort of trades. So yeah, it's a constant growing and evolution for sure. But we're so happy that you all joined us today. We're coming at this, spilling our hearts to you all, our trading hearts, and hoping that adds value to the space. Hoping that we can just reach other, traders, either spread the awareness of this great opportunity or provide that psychology support, give a safe space to have these real authentic conversations and then grow along. So anyone out there that would like to collaborate with us, come on the show. We welcome traders of all skill sets, and we want to keep growing this community. And please check out our socials. You could get in contact with us there. We also have a great website. All of that's listed in our description. And we'll definitely be back next week with another episode. And in the meantime, our best trading days are ahead. Thank you all. Take care.
Bye.